Sometimes I say that the world belongs to the organized, the people who are really good at organization. I don't happen to be one of those people, but I've learned to overcompensate. This video is about how to get organized, especially for people who that's not a natural thing to do. I'm Anne-Marie Segal. I've been an executive coach and resume writer for 10 years. Before that, I was an attorney for 15 years. You can imagine that being organized was a big part of many of my roles. Um, if you know attorneys, you also know that many of them are not naturally organized people. And in fact, they throw themselves into something, let everything else fall by the wayside, and then kind of come back and try to pick it up and revive whatever they've left behind, and then, kind of just back between projects. Um, it's not very efficient. Sometimes, if you've been in the corporate field, you might have heard this phrase treading water. You're just kind of got so much to do, you're barely keeping your head above water. And so organization becomes a luxury. That should not be the case in your job search. And here's why I say that. And here's why this video is so important, because it's not a skill. Organization is not a skill that we're necessarily taught. And even if we're taught it, in theory, it doesn't mean that we're taught how to apply it in practice. So if you're someone who's used to, just keeping all the pots on the stove going, um, and and letting the other things just fall by the wayside, when you're trying to do a job search, which is a very high energy, highly demanding process, you've got to show up with your A game every minute of the day. And it's very easy to get burnt out. So, unlike when you have some employer breathing over you, you got to get this and this and this and this and this all done, yesterday. You are in control to a large extent of your job search. Yes, you may have other people in your life breathing over you. Try to remember that you are in control. So, organizing. There are many tricks to how to organize, but the most important thing is to think about, where can I best invest my time to get the best result? Maybe you've heard of the 80-20 rule. 20% of what we do is responsible for 80% of our results. Um, I would definitely apply that here. For example, you don't want to be focusing your job search on throwing your resume into what we call the black hole, the industry term, the black hole, meaning these online applications. You don't want to be spending forever, just submitting to things online and tracking that, and worrying about if you've heard back. You want to be more proactive in your job search. I talk about networking in another video. It's an important piece of your job search. Creating opportunities, not just going after what's out there online. But so the common wisdom is, 20%, 10%, some small portion of your job search should be spent on those online applications, and the rest of your time spent on things that are more likely to achieve results, such as networking. Um, think about all the things that you'll need to do for your job search. Writing your resume, for example. Um, thinking about if you're going to write emails to people, what are you going to say? Um, if you're going to build out your network and go on informational interviews where you're meeting with people to get more information about certain types of roles or industries, how can you organize these in a way that you do the first things first, and then they're ready to go for the next thing and the next thing, and then organize it based on your time and your energy, and what you're able to actually get accomplished in a day. And, if you're best in the morning, then do the hardest stuff in the morning, potentially. Um, or maybe the things that you can just score, and really make a lot of cover a lot of ground. Um, you do not need to be, I talk about this a bit in the Pace Yourself video prior to this. You do not to be need to be putting 8 or 10 hours a day into your job search. You also need to be holding back time for yourself, self-care, to rejuvenate yourself. So when you think about organizing, this is all important. How do you organize yourself in space and time? How do you organize your desk? How do you organize, and I got into this a little bit in the Pace Yourself video. How do you organize the different things that you're sending out? Some people have a spreadsheet. Some people are allergic to spreadsheets. They have some other way that they keep track of things. But for example, if you have an interview with a company and then they call you back 2 months later, do you even remember what you talked about in the first interview? If you're organized, you will. If you're organized, you will, for example, have a folder with the name of the target company and all of the documents that are relevant to your candidacy in that folder. You will have notes from an interview that you did with them. What was talked about? What points did you make best? What were they concerned about if they had concerns? What were you concerned about? You could call it an interview debrief. I suggest that you have those notes at your fingertips. So, say someone calls you out of the blue, oh my gosh, it's the recruiter. You can go right on to your computer, maybe even have it on your phone if you travel quite a bit, um, be able to pull it up and know exactly what you had discussed in your last conversation and the questions that you have next. Also, you want to organize yourself in terms of um, what am I going to ask them right away? And what am I going to hold back in terms of I need to know this to make a decision about the job, but it's not something I want to discuss right away. If you're organized, you can have that list of questions ready for you at the point that you are going to need them at that next step. Sounds like a lot of work. Job searching is work of some kind, but it's actually less work to be organized about it than to be um, it's well debatable whether it's less work. It's less energy. It's less stress. It's less anxiety. Um, if you are able to organize yourself in whatever way works for you, and I'm just giving suggestions here, it will allow you to free up brain space to use it in your most creative and productive way and not in keeping track of all these details because there are so many different moving parts to a job search. So try what works for you. Keep tweaking, keep trying to make it better, but hopefully some of the things I've said have resonated and you're able to approach your job search um, in a manageable way. Excuse me, not just this, oh my God, I feel like I'm running all over the place. No, you're organized.